Good evening, and welcome to Armageddon Live, Series 2, Episode 31, Structure of Daniel 8 through 12, Part 3, on this 23rd of May, 2020. I'm your host, Daniel Decrypted. If you've been keeping up with my little vlogs, or whatever, you probably know what I'm gonna say. Yeah, once again, I didn't get everything done that I wanted to get done. But anyway, I at least have something to show you. At least you'll be able to visualize things a little clearer now. So, if I get myself out of the way here. Yes, there you go. So this is the lovely structure I've been talking about for a little while. As you can see, we've got the ram versus the goat. On the other side, we have the glorious holy mountain. Yeah, you saw a bit of this last time, but now it's complete. So you can see at the center, we have Daniel's prayer for his people. Babylonian confusion. I haven't really gone over this yet, but there's actually a parallel between Daniel and John. Both are called... John is called the disciple that Jesus loved, and Daniel is called, what is it, the beloved? So anyway, basically it's the same sort of terminology or terms that are being used for both of them, and John is actually a type of the bride of Christ. That is, there are some characteristics that John shares with the bride of Christ, those people who make up the bride of Christ. So you can guess then that the fact that Daniel's prayer for his people is in the center of this, and they're in Babylon, and then you go into Revelation and the church is in Babylon, you can guess that maybe whoever makes up the bride of Christ is actually very much like Daniel in that they feel very deeply pain for what their church is in, that is in this Babylonian confusion state, and like Daniel, they are praying for their people. They're praying for, they're praying for themselves and for the people, just like Daniel did. And of course, it's this structure that puts that, makes that clear. And of course, the interesting thing is, so you have this very important thing on the inside, and then you have this very important thing on the outside, right? You see this picture of the ram and the goat on the glorious holy mountain, or in other words, the glorious holy mountain being Zion. That means this great controversy between the ram, Christ, and the goat, Satan, is in the center of the judgment that's going on within the heavenly tabernacle, which is on a heavenly Mount Zion, right? That's why in Revelation 14 you see the Lamb and the 144,000 on Mount Zion. Wow, this is because in the spirit they are in heaven. They may be physically on earth, but the 144,000 are the Lamb's bride are actually in heaven with Christ. So I can always flip through the other stuff that I went through yesterday. So you have this sequence, I don't have the ram done yet, the ram layer, but then you have the next layer in, and that's the little horn attacking the south, which is equivalent to the king of the north. Well, it's not exactly the same historical time or period, but the imagery is being used for both. The little horn attacking the south and the king of the north, which is the little horn, attacking Egypt, which is to the south of Judea, the kingdom of Judah, Palestine. Same picture. And then wax great and magnify itself, same actual Hebrew word. And then we have cast down and stamped upon. That happens to the stars, which you go into chapter 12, and God's people, those of understanding, are those who shine as stars forever and ever. And anyway, you can go and look at that in chapter 12. So it then connects the stars, or the starry host, with these of understanding who fall by sword and by flame and captivity and by spoil. So it's actually talking about the same historical thing. Yeah, so some of these are types and some are actually equivalent historical descriptions, or descriptions of the same historical thing. Like this. The daily was taken away, take away the daily. Yep, same thing again. Then you have the place of his sanctuary was cast down, and pollution of the sanctuary. It's the same, it's different descriptions of the same sort of thing. Because you cast down the place of the sanctuary, heaven, then you automatically cast down the sanctuary too, because the sanctuary is in heaven. Then an host was given him, and arms shall stand on his part. And you know that you can know that the arms are not like swords or something like that, because then it says later on they, so it's a group, just like the host. So it's the same thing once again. Different terms being used for the same group of people. Then we have the transgression of desolation, which we find in verses 9, chapter 9, verses 24 through 27, is this 70 weeks, 490 years. Because we see the transgression, sins, iniquity repeated 3 times, this sin 3 times used in different words. But the first, of course, is transgression, same Hebrew word as transgression and transgression of desolation. And then you have 3 occurrences of desolation, desolate, the desolate. And it's the same Hebrew word as desolation in the transgression of desolation. So you know that this transgression of desolation is the 70 weeks. Alright, so and then we jump into the parallel section, which is not, I haven't stuck that in detail into the image that I showed you at first, but this, rather than being chiastically arranged, this is arranged in a parallel. So these are just, anyway, so you have someone standing on the river in chapter 8, and you have someone standing on the river in chapter 11, and in both cases Daniel falls into a deep sleep with his face towards the ground. Then you have this interpretation, Persia and Persia, and then you have Gracia and Gracia. Oh, and of course the first king, which we know how historically is Alexander the Great. He dies really young, and his kingdom is broken up into 4. So the same description being given in both chapter 8 and chapter 11. Yes, we have this king of fierce countenance or face. Same Hebrew word occurring in chapter 11 as in chapter 8, but in chapter 11 it's repeated 3 times. His face, his face, his face. And the last one, though isn't done yet, has heart. It says in chapter 8 that he's lifted up in his heart, and then you go into chapter 11 and you have heart repeated 3 times. But anyway, yeah, that's junk. Alright, so oops, there we go. So there we go. I mean, I didn't get a lot of stuff done, but yeah, maybe I should move out of the way. So ram versus goat, little horn attacks the south, king of the north attacks Egypt. Of course, the ram and goat are on the glorious holy mountain. Anyway, you go through each of the layers and you have the parallels that I just showed you from the text. This is a summary as best as I can make it. So anyway, for us though, the important thing is to take this center thing into account as well as the outside. To realize where Christ is, what the important thing or the center of this judgment is. It's this great controversy, which of course also comes out in the cross, because that's where the controversy was won. So not only is the cross the center of the judgment, but so is this great controversy between Satan and Jesus. So pray for your church. Pray for the churches. Pray for yourself. Because we need to leave this Babylonian confusion. So that's all for tonight. I guess probably by tomorrow I should have the structure completely done. And then I'll show you that there is a little bit of structure in Daniel's prayer too. It's this chiasm. Once again, so it reinforces the fact that yes, indeed, there is this chiasm structure that this chapter 8 through 12 is put into. Yeah, so I hope to see you tomorrow. I hope this has piqued your interest. And yes, we keep on going and try to complete all of this stuff. So, God bless and good night.